Good morning, Dan and Amy. 12 months probation, 400 hours of community service. That's what former FBI lawyer Kevin Clinesmith got in terms of a sentence for admittedly falsifying evidence submitted to the FISA court for a warrant to spy on one-time Trump foreign policy advisor Carter Page. Is that what justice looks like? For an answer to that question, we're pleased to be joined by Lieutenant Colonel Jim Carafano, Vice President of the Catherine and Shelby Cullum Davis Institute for International Studies at the Heritage Foundation, author of books including Wiki at War and Private Sector Public Wars. Jim, on Clinesmith, I recall George Papadopoulos going to jail for lying to the FBI. I recall a judge being unwilling to dismiss charges against Michael Flynn for allegedly lying to the FBI. What about Kevin Clinesmith in the FBI?
Well, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't comment on legal matters. But I think we all recognize that part of the reason why we have punishment is so that other people know how they'll be held accountable if they do similar behaviors. I think we all recognize that tampering with evidence by a law enforcement official has got to be one of the most egregious things we can imagine, because it literally undermines the integrity of the entire system of rule of law and equal protection under the law. So I can understand why people would think, well, this does not seem right, because here is a law enforcement officer who, in addition to committing a crime, is a sworn officer who swears to uphold the rule of law. So, for example, when we have an active shooter incident and, a civilian is killed, we have this huge investigation about the participation of law enforcement in use of deadly force. And if a law enforcement officer has exercised deadly force inappropriately, we take that super seriously because they have a double responsibility. They're not just breaking a law. They have a responsibility to enforce the law.
Well, thinking about it at the local level, think about the instances where you've had police corruption, police planting evidence to implicate somebody who was otherwise innocent. I mean, that's really, to me, the comparison to Clinesmith and Carter Page. He essentially created evidence to implicate Carter Page that otherwise he wouldn't have been implicated. And it also not just undermines the FBI, it undermines FISA, too. I mean, I agree with the Wall Street Journal that they asked the question rhetorically, how can the American people take the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court seriously when it doesn't take itself seriously?
I think there's also this issue of, justice is blind. So there may have been very well-meaning people in law enforcement agencies who thought, well, these guys are guilty, and for the sake of the nation, I have to help protect the country. That's just a political view. And you're inserting your own political judgments into the exercise of the rule of law. You are not the judge, and it is not your job to determine, whether people are coming after the Constitution or not. That's the job of the law. And when you insert yourself into that process, no matter how well-meaning you think you are, you're not well-meaning. You're actually being a political actor, which is not the role law enforcement should play at all.
Right, but I mean, he tried to bring down, he tried to bring down a sitting president, and that's almost not, has that ever happened recently that you could remember?
Well,
No.
I think that gets to the point is you should not be inserting your political judgments into the exercise of your duties. Look, I was in the military under Bill Clinton. I was in the Pentagon under Bill Clinton. There are a lot of things where I disagreed with what Clinton was doing, but never for a day that I walked in that building did I ever think, what can I do today to undermine this president who I do think is doing bad defense policies? That would be a violation of my oath. So I do think it's a serious issue when you not just commit a crime, but that pursuant to committing the crime, that you also violate an oath.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it just speaks to the continued skepticism, to be polite about it, that a wide swath of the American people have with respect to the FBI and our intelligence agencies, and I suspect that's only going to deteriorate further over the next 4 years.
Well, I will say, because I work with a lot of those folks. I talk to them all the time, several people on my staff, that have experience in operating these agencies. The people go join the FBI or go to the CIA because they want to serve their country. Um, whether it's a bad cop or people that get in these agencies and they put a political agenda first. It's not just the American people that are getting victimized, but the good people that work in these agencies are getting victimized for something that they have nothing to do with.
Understand. I understand, but if there's no operational control of those agencies that is playing the game fairly, so to speak, then how else do you expect people to react? I don't know. I don't know. It's just a bad
I
situation
don't
all the
trust
way
the
around.
FBI.
And
Well,
and Christopher Wray, frankly, hasn't inspired much more confidence than did his predecessor.
again, I think it's an issue. We say, well, that's what we have elections for. A lot of us, all of us, right? We think about, well, I'm voting on, I don't like the way they responded to COVID, or I don't like this, or I don't like that. But when you're voting for folks for national office, you're voting for the whole package. You are voting for a commander in chief. You're voting for essentially the person who's the chief law enforcement officer of the land. And people need to think about these things when they decide who they want to be president. We created the executive office to be strong because we want that affirmation of action. But there's a reason why every single person in law enforcement or in the military or that is a member of Congress or why they all take an oath of office. There's look, I'm on an advisory board. So I take an oath of office when I join an advisory board. Those oaths are supposed to mean something. You have a public trust. And when you violate that, you've done something really, really wrong. And when you put leaders in charge who are indifferent to people violating their oaths, that's not a positive situation.
Yeah, but it's unsettling. I mean, Carter Page lost his house, he lost his job, he lost his reputation, and this guy, Kevin Clinesmith, gets 1 year probation. That doesn't seem fair.
Well, it's more than that, actually. I mean, it's his sentence plus all of those DOJ Inspector General reports documenting all of this malfeasance and this Durham investigation that doesn't seem like we'll ever see completion on. And you get the feeling you can manufacture evidence as an attorney, as an officer of the court, as a counsel to the FBI, and effectively get away with it. And all of those other people higher up can effectively get away with all the malfeasance that Horowitz documented in his IG reports, too. It just doesn't matter if you have the right position and the right connections.
So, I mean, to most Americans, I mean, and again, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't make a legal judgment on this because I'm not qualified to do that. But it looks like a triple standard. It's just not some people are prosecuted and some people are left off. It's some people are actually hammered and taken to the wall and their lives are destroyed. And then there are the rest of us just we get punished, and then there are people who are protected. And that triple standard, I do think, or even the appearance of that triple standard, is really undermining to the confidence in democracy. It's funny because the same people who are frustrated, by the way, about the civil rights of individuals on the street, whom how they may be treated by a law enforcement who does something wrong, you would think they would be equally agitated about something like this. And to me, this is another problem.
You would think.
When we're agitated about civil rights concerns of people who are politically similar to us, but people who are politically indifferent to us, we don't care that their civil rights may have been squandered or their lives destroyed. That double standard isn't healthy for a democracy either.
Speaking of double standards, I'm old enough to remember when there was a lot of concern about the emoluments clause, about the Trump family compromising our national security because of their business interests around the globe. And then this comes to us from Michael Goodwin over at the Post. Joe Biden's younger brother, Frank, appeared in an ad for a Florida law firm for whom he consults, apparently, on Inauguration Day, no less, that was in furtherance of some class action lawsuit they have against a sugar company. The two Biden brothers have a long-held commitment to pushing environmental issues to the forefront, so the ad goes. The president-elect has vowed to rejoin the Paris Agreement and wants to set ambitious greenhouse gas reduction targets. And then there's Frank Biden in the ad. My brother is a model for how to go about doing this work. And again, it's about some class action lawsuit they have against Florida sugarcane companies. This plaintiff's attorney this plaintiff's firm that Frank apparently is a consultant to. What do you think about that?
Well, again, not a lawyer. I will say I can't ever remember any relative of Trump doing anything similar to that. I think even according to some of the reporting I saw, even Biden was upset. Upset about that. So I think that is clearly one that appears inappropriate. So look, I think this administration should get the same scrutiny. No, it shouldn't get the same scrutiny because much of the scrutiny directed against Trump administration was actually politically motivated, politically driven, and politically sustained. That's not a lawyer judgment. Well, it is a lawyer judgment because that's what lawyers have said. That's what reports have said. That's not my judgment. So I don't think we want politically motivated investigations, but the level of scrutiny and the standards should be the same for every president, this president included.
Before we let you go, the military coup in Myanmar, in Southeast Asia. This is a country that has had all sorts of problems, including ethnic cleansing, perhaps even a genocide of Rohingya Muslim minorities there, like we see the Uyghurs in China. Any particular interest that America should have other than in Myanmar, other than in opposing dictatorships and genocides?
Well, I think there was always a facade of democracy in Burma that was never really realistic. I think it is important to recognize and affirm when there are serious human rights abuses around the world, and I hope we would be really, really strong on that. Burma, I think, is firmly in the Chinese orbit. It's another reminder of how China is not a force for good in the world. China sustains, nourishes, tolerates, and encourages, in order to keep Burma in its orbit, a military genocidal regime in Burma. That's a reminder to people that China is not your friend.
And for those of you who didn't major in geography like Michael Jordan, Myanmar is adjacent to China, and you're suggesting it's essentially a client state of the Chinese communists, and that they were behind it or sanctioned this military coup.
There's very little difference in the relationship between China and the way it tries to treat surrounding states like Burma with the Soviet Union and the way it treated captured nations after World War II, like Romania, Poland, and Czechoslovakia and Yugoslavia. It's very much the same. And again, I think when people keep pointing out these problems, whether it's climate change, where the world's biggest polluter is China, or these other issues, and then they turn around and try to pretend that China is some kind of benign or inoffensive actor. It's not. It is the most destabilizing force in the world today, and that's just the reality of it. And the more we try to treat China like just a normal country, the more we kind of put our head in our shirts and ignore the reality of what's going on today.
Lieutenant Colonel Jim Carafano, VP of the Catherine and Shelby Cullum Davis Institute for International Studies at the Heritage Foundation. Jim, thanks as always.
Yeah, that's longer than the interview. All right, thanks, man.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Steve Cortez here. Small business owners and those of you who make marketing decisions for businesses, listen up. 2021 is here. How's your marketing plan? 2021 will be a comeback year for so many small businesses, but you'll bounce back faster if you're getting your marketing message to the right audience. That's why you need to become a Food for the Poor business benefactor. We run this campaign in November and December, but we always have a few slots that open up in January. So don't wait to take advantage of them. Here's how it works. You make a $2,500 tax-deductible donation to Food for the Poor to help them as they provide food for children in Latin America and the Caribbean. All that money goes to Food for the Poor. Then, AM 560 gives you 40 60-second commercials to air right here on this station, Monday through Friday, between 5 a.m. and 8 p.m. Absolutely free. That's the best marketing deal in all of Chicago radio. To become a business benefactor, call Anjanette at 847-472-8955. 8951. That's 847-472-8951. Or go online, 560theanswer.com/food for the poor.
Guys, I want to encourage you to make your health a priority this new year. It's easier than you think at Low T Center. They're reinventing the doctor's visit, making it quick and easy to get all of your levels checked, not just your testosterone. They offer a comprehensive health assessment so you know all your numbers. If you've been feeling tired, grumpy, have lack of motivation and drive, notice weight gain and loss of muscle mass, these could all be signs of low testosterone, low thyroid, or even sleep apnea. Low T Center will help determine the cause of your symptoms and help you get back to feeling your best. It all starts with their quick and easy health assessment covered by most health insurance. And now they offer monitored, self-inject, at-home testosterone treatments, providing convenience and additional health monitoring measures for your safety, including a take-home blood pressure monitoring cuff. Self-inject at-home treatments are $135 a month for self-pay or covered by most health insurance. To schedule your health assessment, go to lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.